Hi, everyone. This is another meeting of our Adult Education Virtual Job Club. Tonight, we are going to talk about creating winning resumes and online job applications. So I'm going to get started right away and share my screen. Are you seeing the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so this is the title, Creating Winning Resumes and Online Job Applications. So when we talk about resumes, there are so many different formats. And if you've been to any other of our job club meetings or I've come to your class, I've probably talked about the fact that if you do a web search for creating resumes, there are tons and tons of fancy resumes, which they're lovely if you get a chance to get an in-person interview, or you can hand that resume to somebody, that's fine. But what it isn't good for is if you're planning on uploading it into an applicant tracking system or an online job application, because you're relying on that applicant tracking system to interpret the information and populate it in the right spots. And if you have a lot of formatting in your fancy resume, things might not go where you want them to go. So even though, even this, if you look at what they suggest that you use for your, the format that you use for online applications, I mean, resumes, this is the format that they talk about, but they also suggest that you not use bullet points. So I still do that. I've never been told that my resume didn't upload properly. I have gotten interviews using it. I just find it organizes the information better. So that's why I still use that, but I don't do the fancy split down the middle and have contact information on one side and my career information on the other. I think they are lovely. I would definitely consider doing that if I'm going to an interview, meeting face-to-face with an employer, but I would not try to upload one of those. So this is a great format because it shows our name at the top. And then whatever information we talked about, how currently best practices are, you don't have to give your street address. You can just give your city and your state. The phone address that you put down, make sure that it is one that you check messages on often, because you don't want to miss a call from a potential employer. You also want to make sure that your outgoing voice message is very professional. You want to put an email address on here, and it should be also a professional email address, so that you want maybe first initial, last name. Maybe you might have to have a couple of numbers if you're setting up especially on Gmail. It seems like that's a very popular site, and so they may tell you that your first and last name is already has a user using that name, so you might have to use other numbers in there. Just make sure that you write down what your business email address is, what your business password is, so that you can keep track and check on all of that. And also, if you should, last time we were talking about the possibility of creating career portfolios, but possibly doing a digital portfolio. So if you did that, this is the place up here that you would put your digital, the address to your digital portfolio. This is also where you would put your LinkedIn address, because employers very often, if you have a LinkedIn account, they are going to definitely look at that. And we talked about how when you create your resume for an online application, we don't want it to be, if you can get it down to one page, that's great. 2 pages at the most. But on your LinkedIn account, you can actually, in that resume section, you can go into more detail because LinkedIn is kind of the combination of a professional communication tool as well as a social media tool. So it's a little bit more relaxed than what you would do on your job application. So this is representative of the professional history. You can, we talked about how there are 2 types, chronological and functional. You really use the same format, whether you are doing chronological or functional. It's just what you put on each of these lines that would be different. And we can talk about that, I think, on the next slide is where we talk about the difference between them. But you want, wherever you do it, you want the company's name, you want, and what I do is I usually put the job title that I had and the company's name. I put the dates underneath it, and then I describe the role in the remaining spaces. So, and you'll do that. This is going to be your most current position, and then back through your history. You don't need to go back more than 10 years unless there is a position. Some people change careers and then they go back and do something else. Or you had a full-time job before you had children, you did volunteer work and part-time job. In the meantime, now you want to come back and it's 12 years later and you want to come back to that original field, then you are going to go further back because you want to show the experience that you had there. Your educational history, I think if I were going to be using this format, I would have my summary, and the summary is that branding statement or elevator pitch that we've talked about. I would have this part with my contact information, my elevator pitch or branding statement here. I'd move skills up here above professional history. Then I would put my professional history. Then I would put educational history. Just because employers, I think, are really honing in on finding people who have the right skills for the job. And this way you're putting it right up top. And remember, we talked about employers spend 6 seconds looking at potential interview candidates. So you want to make sure that you get right up top all those things that say you're a match. Okay, then on the next slide, this is the description of the short form of a resume. This came from a description of short form. The middle one said long form. Long form is generally used if you are applying for a government job or something in education. With education and government, they ask for a lot more detail than your than the average community employer would ask for. So there's a lot more detail you have to give. So that's going to be longer. If you are not applying for education or government, your resume should not be longer than 2 pages. And if you can get it down to one side of 1 page, that's the perfect length. And I've said this many times, I have been working a long time. I've had many different jobs, and my resume is one side of 1 page. I pick the highlights and tailor my resume for every job I apply to, and I make sure that I use the keywords that the employer is looking for. So this talks about the 2 types, the chronological. It says here that most employers really like this because it lists the most recent job first, which lets them know, are you just kind of changing desks from one job to the other? So this would be an easy move for you. It also is good if you have, it shows if you have a consistent work history. So that scenario where I said you had a job before you had children, and then you had children, did part-time and some volunteering. Well, that's not that professional experience, maybe that matches what you're doing. So that could present kind of a gap that you would have to explain. So maybe you would want to go to functional, which is this side where you're going to be highlighting those skills and achievements. And it's not that you're not going to mention your work history, but you're not going to mention the things that don't apply. You're only going to mention the jobs that do apply. Okay, then, so these are the ones, the short form is, this can be that pretty format that we talked about before. I have not seen, when I have tried to do a web search on sample resumes, they all come up with the fancy formats. They do not come up with the applicant tracking system. So here, down here, tells you what you want to do to make sure that the applicant tracking system reads your resume correctly. It's not going to be as pretty. It's going to look very simple, but you're sure that the information will go to the right places. Okay, so this is the one when you're submitting an online job application. When they say upload your resume, it's this plain unformatted one that you want to upload. When it says convert to plain text, when you save, you can determine which format you want to save it in. They're suggesting text. You can also save it as a Word document. Stay away from your Google Drive using Doc or those, because sometimes you don't want to get in a position where they have to ask you for permission to look at it, though you are uploading it. So that should be okay, because it's going to look like a printed form, but use Doc or text. Where it says strip special formatting, they're talking about everything. They're talking about bold and italics and underlining. I mean, it looks like it's hard for you to look at this and think of this as professional, but remember, this is for a computer, you're not doing this for a person, and you have to get past the computer, the applicant tracking system, in order for a human to see it. And where they say content is left justified, I'm going to go back to so this is left justified. Everything lines up here. A lot of times, and I'm guilty of doing this too, where I would write the company name here and then the dates that I was there to the right. You don't want to do any of that on this format. You want everything to be lined up on the left. They don't want you using any of these bullets. So maybe you could tab if you want that to be items that you're highlighting, but so you don't take a chance on bullets causing a problem. And here's where they say no bullets or asterisk or spacers, any kind of special characters. They're suggesting that you not use those at all. So this is that stripped down, just the information, looking like you're only answering questions. It doesn't even look like a paper that you would hand in anywhere. It just is very, very plain. That's your applicant tracking system online, your applicant tracking system format for your resume for uploading when you're applying to jobs. Okay, so one of the things that I keep talking about is to choose and highlight keywords. So in this particular example, so up here, it says, upload your resume. So that's going to be your applicant tracking one. This is on the LinkedIn site, and they're suggesting that you set up an account and upload your resume onto the Indeed account. So this is where you can't tailor it to every job because you don't know who's going to be looking at your resume, but what you can do is tailor it for the type of job that you're looking for. So, so here's an example, and I chose a retail type job because I'm going to refer to the resume that I did on Career Coach to show you how I might change it. So here's the part-time cashier job, and it shows these are all the details that they of what your tasks would be. And this tells you about the job, but it says to apply on the company site. Do I have that? No. Okay, so what I put here is on this side, these are the job description tasks for a part-time retail or for a retail person. So remember, I added Target to my resume and it was retail. And when I added it, I looked at what the tasks were and it gave me this whole list of tasks. Okay. Now, to find the keywords, you want to make sure that you're looking at all the responsibilities and tasks, and you're going to look through here and make sure that you have something in your resume that matches. In the duties, you want to highlight the words, the types of verbs, action verbs that they use, the technical skills that they're looking for. All of those are considered keywords that you want to make sure that you're using when you when you list your tasks for your resume. So I did not have this particular job in mind. And if I had, when I add the work history, all of these things are what comes up for a retail person. Well, let's take a little look at, for just a few minutes here, let's look at what that position, that part-time career cashier position that I just showed you. These are the duties and responsibilities for this position. And almost every job description is going to have this: must be able to perform duties with or without reasonable accommodation. So if there's something on here that you can't do right now exactly as it's described, but when you perform this task, you have other ways of doing it, you would just explain that that's how you would be doing that particular task. So I tried to color code this first one, and generally speaking, these are in the order of what they think is important. So we want to make sure processes, customers, purchases. Well, when I look over in the tasks that Career Coach gives us, it's got compute sales prices, total purchases, receive and process. So there's that process verb. All of these things relate to the customer and being able to handle a purchase. So this would satisfy that requirement. And then it's got perform general cleaning duties. And down here, I have cleaning shelves, or I know it says something. I've got my, let me move this out of the way. Clean shelves, counters, and tables. So that matches that, this one that's in yellow. Return misplaced items to shelves. Here's the ticket, arrange and display merchandise to promote sales. I like the way they say this one, because it's doing the same thing. It's returning or placing merchandise out there, but I like the way it says to promote sales. it means you're already thinking about what's going to be best for the customer, what's going to get them to buy things. So I like this wording, and I would definitely not change this one. So then the next one down that I think would be of importance is providing exceptional customer service and assisting customers. These first two would be the customer service and assisting customers. The next thing, collaborate with team members and communicate. I don't have one here that specifically matches that, which means that we either have to look for it or make sure that we have enough of the others to not worry about this one. But remember when I said being a team player and communicating are skills that across the board, no matter what job you're applying for, employers are looking for these soft skills. So we don't have this. That's why I have the asterisk here. We don't have anything like this in this list right here. So I'm going to look for something and maybe just take this wording and put it right in the skills that I list for the skills. As long as I've done this, I'm not saying put skills into your resume that you don't have, but you might forget that in a job of, almost everybody has to collaborate with team members, even if it's, I'll take this side on that side, or I'll put away, you price these materials and I'll put the returns back on. You've got to be able to communicate, and especially to the store's management team. Okay, this one about providing feedback. That's more of that communication. And this is about the inventory losses is any kind of theft that happens. So that matches down here, this watch for and recognize security risks and thefts. So that matches this. Participate in taking store inventory counts. Here's the inventory line here. I ran out of colors of highlighting that we could read through. So I had to end up changing text color. The cash policies, adhering to that, that's all in this one still, because it says minimize losses, and that's what you're talking about here. This is another complies with all established, let me move this, established company policies and procedures. We don't have that specifically on here, which is why I've got the 3 asterisks. So we might want to add that. The collaborating with team members, that's very similar to this one. So you're going to want to put something in. Again, that's why I have the asterisk. And upholds the security and confidentiality of documents and data. I don't think we have one. The other duties, there's nothing in here about confidential data, and did I put an asterisk at the end? I hope I did. Yep, there's an asterisk at the end because we don't have that. And then other duties as assigned, every employer puts that in their job description. So depending on how long, if you've only had one retail job, you don't have to list every one of these, but I would make sure that I have something about communication and working as a team in there, even though like collaborates. So this is the first one. Second one is customer service. Third one is communication or collaborating. The feedback, that's really, but this is about inventory losses, which are huge in retail stores, that you know about that. So I probably would even stop here at this point, because you don't want your resume to be overly long. And as long as you have these key things, words, phrases in here on your side of your resume, you will get chosen by the applicant tracking system. Okay, so now moving on. So this is what on Career Coach, and we're going to go in there so I can show it to you. But this is the My Resume section. So again, this is when I set up my account. This is the information I gave it, and it populated it. This is my education, all of this stuff. Now they have bullets here, which they told us not to do. They also use bold, but everything is lined up on the left. There's nothing on the right. And these are the tasks that I chose to list, which we'll look at. Okay, so from what we just looked at of what the requirements of the job were there any requirements that said recommended schedules for the department supervisor? There weren't, so we can omit that and maybe put something in there about teamwork or communication. This describe merchandise, explain use operation. You want to keep that in there. Maybe you want to word it like they worded it in the job description, but this is that giving customer service, explaining the product to your customers. Here's the part about being able to handle all purchases. Here's the part about if you knowing the merchandise that you're selling so that you can make recommendations. And this is all more of these are on the customer service side. So we're going to need to look at that and see if what we want to change. We definitely are going to take this one out. That leaves room for the possibility of teamwork or communication. Okay, so now I'm on this site again. And I think what I'm going to do is stop sharing this screen and start sharing the actual Career Coach. Okay, so I'm in my profile. I have my resume. I just want to remind you how we got this work experience in here. So if I'm going to edit, because I don't want to remove the entire work experience, because this is the only work experience that I have that's relative to retail. But I am going to edit. And when I edit, I'm going to list out, here's the ones that we put in there. They're the ones that are lighter colored. Those are the ones that that are in my resume right now. So here's my save tax. So I'm going to, you have to move some back. I'm going to take this one out because we talked about how it doesn't match anything on the job description. So that's not in there anymore. Greet customers. They were big on greeting customers. Let me go back to the job and look at, so the purchases we have customer service assisting them with that. Collaborate with team members and communicate. So let's go back into Career Coach, look at the tasks, and let's see if there's something on communicating with management. Okay. Answer question. Okay, I don't see that, but what I'm seeing right here is look at this one where it says watch for and recognize security risks. So I'm going to add that one to take the place of the one that I took out. And then the communicating, I'm going to have to enter a custom one because there isn't one in here that matches what they had in the ad. So I'm going to go right back to the ad and see if I can't highlight this. And I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to go back into Career Coach. And hopefully I am going to put it there. And then I'm going to add it because it's a custom, and here it is. So it's one of my saved tasks now. And that's how easy it is to adjust your tasks for your job to make sure that they match. So I've gone through here on that previous page where I color coded. Really, collaborating with team members was a huge one that we didn't have. We also didn't have, let's see. We didn't have the one about preventing loss, the inventory losses. And so I added that and took out the one about suggesting schedules. And this one is collaborating with team members and communicating clearly with store management. I think that what we added, by doing that, there were two different communication ones in the job description on their employment ad. I think this one kind of incorporates them both. And now I would say all of these start with action verbs. They match with the job description. So these are the tasks that I'm going to now save. And remember that when you change anything, you have to save it and close it. And let me download my resume. It's not showing it. I'll look for it later at the end, but these are the tasks. So if we look at this, these are the tasks now. That I just changed. So this is how my resume is now going to look. Okay, let's go back into the PowerPoint now. And we did that. Here's my resume. Okay, so now that's the resume part. We've matched it to what they list as the qualifications or the responsibilities of the job. We've now matched that to our resume that's in Career Coach. So now if we want to apply for this job, we can apply for it right from the Indeed site. So I'm going to go back to okay, so now I'm actually on the site, and I need to find the spot. So I scroll down, it's telling all about the company, all the benefits that they offer. Okay, and then apply on company site. So let's go to the company site. So when we go to the company site, we are now on all of Aldi's sites, the home page site. This is, so we've left LinkedIn or Indeed, and now we're on the Aldi site, and we want to apply now. So when I click on apply now, again, it's showing me the job, the description, but now we've got to apply. If I had a LinkedIn resume ready to go, I could sign in here with LinkedIn. I don't, so I'm going to use this apply now. Okay, the first thing they want you to do in any job that you're applying for, they are going to ask you to sign in, create an account. The purpose of this, it has a lot of different purposes. One of them is usually you don't in one sitting get everything done for the job application, because usually you have to fill out an application, which means typing in all your work history, descriptions of your job, and then you have to upload materials. You might not have the right cover letter ready. So there are various pieces to this that you might not have ready. If you create an account, you can start the process, save the job, and save as much as you've done and come back later to complete it. So we can't sign in because we don't have an account yet. So we're going to go down, and this is the consent. They all have the same thing. There's no guarantee that if you fill this out, you're going to have a job. I can assure you that if you do not consent, it's not going to let you apply for the job. It's saying that they can leave you a text, they can contact you about other jobs. That's the other thing. Once you have an account, if you decide Aldi is a company that you like and you like the benefits that they have and the opportunities, if you have an account, you can go back, your resume will be in there. Your application will be in there. So all you're going to have to do is a little bit of editing and you can apply for a different job. They also have a number of locations. So if you wanted to be that part-time associate or cashier and the North Aurora store wasn't available, maybe the Oswego store is available. Maybe the Aurora store is available. So it's a good idea to set up those accounts. So I'm going to go ahead and consent. Okay, so now it's telling me to register. And we are going to do this so we can see how far we have to get before I actually apply for this job. Oops. Start over. So at this point, which I didn't do, and I'm going to do now, is I'm going to write down what password I just used, okay? My primary phone, I am going to use my work cell phone. And register. Success, yay. Okay, so now I have an account and now I'm going to sign in. And that means that, you know how sometimes you have usernames? In this particular case, they're using the email address as usernames. See where it says reset your password? So if I've forgotten my password, that's a place where I could reset it or change it because I've forgotten it. I can't tell you how many times I do that, because it's just like with this. I don't know when I'll go back to apply to show this example again, and I will have forgotten what password I used. So I do that a lot in my personal life as well. Okay, so here's what they're saying, and look what it is starting out with. You can use a resume to fill out your application faster, and it'll be added as an attachment. So, and they want it either in a doc, a docx, or a PDF. So I am going to, so this is what happens. It opens up, I gotta move this stuff. It opens up my, boy, I wish that resume was in here. This is that sample, that's a flyer. So what I want isn't in this one. So I am going to look and see. Here's my resume. And it's a docx. So it matches the docx that they asked for down here. So now I'm going to click on that. They're pre-filling the application. So now I'm going to be verifying. So they put in my email address, my first and last name, and I'm only going to look at the ones that they have the red asterisks for, because you have to answer those. This is from that, on my resume in Career Coach, this is my office number. So that's why it doesn't match what I put in there. There's the address. Here's my work experience for Target. I was a retail salesperson. And that's all it has in here. It doesn't have any descriptions, which I don't understand why that is. Here's the high school equivalency. So it put this in the wrong place. So it put my educational my highest level of education. So I'm going to put that in level of education. And my school is going to be Waubonsee Community College, because I am saying, that that's where I got my GED. And it's not, these two are not required. These two are not required. So I'm not going to put anything in that's not required. Now, because you have education that's outside of the country, if you're going to apply for a job, you can decide to be a part-time clerk at Aldi doesn't require your master's degree. But any other position that you might apply for in a business kind of setting or an educational kind of setting, you're going to want all of that in there. So let's say this one is your master's degree. In here, I would make sure that I put in, well, here it's going to have a field of study. So educational psych is in here. So we could just put that in. And then down here, you can say credentials validated by ECE. So if, like, for example, for the ROE, if you end up with having to apply for a specific, if you have to fill out something like this and you want to put in your master's degree, in the description is where you can put in your fields of study, what language it was in, and that it has credentials have already been validated. Okay, then you're going to put your school name in up here for where, okay, and that's not what this is, but I don't know if it's going to let me blank it out now that I put something in there. Oh, well. And then we've got Waubonsee. Okay, now look at this. So they're giving us, these are skills that they must value. So you're going to, we've got adult education because that's in my, adult education is in my resume. So when it says, how would I rate my knowledge? I would rate my knowledge as expert in adult education. With cash, I would, because I haven't worked in retail for a while, I might say intermediate. For credit, I've never worked on that, so I'm going to leave that some knowledge. In greeting customers, I greet people all the time, so I'm going to say expert, even though I don't greet customers, if you will. I do greet students, business owners, other teachers, so you don't have to take this specifically in terms of the job you're applying for. It's the skill that you have. In instructional design, I would say I'm intermediate in that. Learning management, also intermediate. You're going to want to, and if you're doing an education one, you want to do this as highly, you're going to want to grade them as highly as you can, but you don't want to lie about or misrepresent what your skills are. That's never a good idea. And you could have to take some kind of test before you start. My knowledge of sales is also intermediate, so I'm going to say that. I have worked in retail before, so I'm going to say some knowledge. And I've also done some marketing, so I'm going to say some knowledge. So those are the skills, and now I'm going to save and continue that. Experience job title. Oh. I kind of just ignored this one. And see, it did have a red asterisk. I just missed it. And it populated the dates that I was there from my resume, because I did have that in there. All right, let's see if the level of education at Wabansie. Okay, we are going to say, oops, that was horrible. And leave it at that. And we did this. So if there's a skill that you have that they haven't listed here, you can add it. And it looks like you don't have to have. So if the job, okay, I happen to have adult education experience, but they don't need that for that job. So I can just take that off. Now, if I was doing some kind of training for a job, I would put that back in. All of this stuff, instructional design, I don't need that for retail. Learning management, maybe that would be okay. Learning management, so I'll leave that. Sales, retail, marketing. Okay, so the rest of it I'm going to leave on. And let's see if it'll take it now. What did I forget? Oh, now see, it did not. I thought we had a job title in the resume. How did I miss that? Jeez. Okay, so then you're going to fill out, you're going to answer these kind of questions. What is your work style? Here's where you get to answer it. Look at all of the behaviors. If any of these that, okay, so team player, hopefully you want to be a team player and feel comfortable with that. You want to be innovative. Everybody's looking for that. You want to be detail oriented. I'm surprised there isn't, and any of the others, I'm surprised there isn't more on communicating here. But, and then the way you add it is that. So if I want to put in enthusiastic, I'm going to add that. And that's all you do. You go down the list and you match them. Okay, save. And then what motivates you? Same kind of thing. They've got a drop-down menu. Anything that motivates you, then you add it. Okay, so for this particular one, this job, I don't think requires any kind of certification. So you wouldn't necessarily have to fill out this, but if you're applying for something that does, this is going to be a very important field for you. Okay. Interesting that this says it's required. Well, we'll see what happens. Huh. Oh, license name. So I'm just going to put my own name down. I think that's what this means. No. Okay. So do I have, let's see if it will take this. Okay. So I don't need a license. This happened to me on another form. I was supposed to put in a license and there wasn't one required. And I just put in that N/A, which can either mean doesn't apply or not available. And then links. What does this link to? All right. So if you have your website, if you have anything out there, a digital career portfolio, this is where you're going to put it. This is where you're going to put your LinkedIn link. So that once we put in the LinkedIn, then we can add another link. So here's the other link that you can add. Okay. And then save that. So I just keep adding link. Oh, delete, and delete. Okay, let's see if we don't have any links. Yeah, okay, so we didn't have, so let's say my digital career portfolio isn't ready yet. I haven't finished my LinkedIn. So for this particular job, I'm not going to give them a link to any other thing. I highly recommend, though, that you have that LinkedIn account to link them to. These are the documents. They've uploaded my resume. I can upload another file and then I'd have to describe it. So if I upload, it's going to pull. Okay, so this pulls up all the downloads that I have. And okay, so here's where I got the resume. I don't think I have a cover letter in here. So let's say I have a cover letter. I click on this, I find the cover letter, click on that, and it will automatically upload it. And then you just answer these questions. This is your availability. Tells you a little more about the job. So you can see from all these questions, availability is huge. They are asking for a salary expectation, and I'm pretty sure they listed the salary as $14 an hour. So I would put that in there, and so I would enter it as, oops. Okay, so it's not letting me put the $ in, so let's see if it will. No. Okay, so I've just got, it won't let me, all it wants is a whole number. So I've got the 14 in there. They're going to have to interpret that. Are you currently employed? Yes or no? Have you been with your company 2 or more years? Okay, so they're looking for somebody who's been in a job for a while. So they want you to answer these questions. If you were referred by a staffing agency, you have to list the name of the staffing agency. So those are like employment agencies, temporary firms. Some of our students do that. They register with temporary agencies just to get some experience. Okay, in this particular job, a non-compete agreement means if you had a position where you had access to either, let's say, their financial information, you were involved in their marketing techniques and what they plan to do in the future, then they ask that you non-compete because you've got so much information in the company. So if this is Aldi, they don't want you to go to Jewel, non-competing, because then you could go to Jewel and tell all the secrets of Aldi and how they plan on retailing in the future. The currently authorized, all of these have asterisks, so you're going to have to add, you're going to have to answer all of these. Reliable transportation to and from work is huge. And they give the option here of, do you have a high school diploma or equivalent? So if you were currently studying for your GED and you didn't have any other educational credentials from anywhere else, then you would just say no here. And in your resume, it's going to show what education you have. Your cash handling, this is just, they're trying to get a feel for how much experience you have. Okay, and this is in our current environment to not discriminate, provide equity. We are asking questions now like choose a gender, and in this case, they're offering 2 options. Some of them, your ethnic origin. Okay, so they're only asking Hispanic, Latino, or not. Your veteran, and you can decline to say if you so choose. And that still is answering the question. Are you a protected veteran? Let's see what they have here. So it's yes or no, or you decline to say. Once you leave this page, you won't be able to edit the information that you entered. So by submitting, if I submit, I've now applied for that job. Okay, which I'm not going to do because I already have a job. But you've seen the process and that's it. And most of the others are just that simple. Do you have any questions about this before I leave the site about the application?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, Aldi, I'm not applying. I hope I don't mess you up. All right, so let's go back into our PowerPoint. Stop sharing that. Go back into my share screen. Okay, and here's our end of our presentation. If you've been to Job Club before, you know that I always end with the contact information for our advising team. So Tom and Marlena are our academic transition advisors. I'm Valerie Kazuba, the career advisors. These are the places that you can contact us. And if you have attended a Job Club meeting, I automatically send the PowerPoint slides to you, but if you know of anybody who might want them, they can contact me to get the slides. So once again, I'm going to stop sharing. And thank you for coming and your attendance today. This was a lot of information at one time, so it's probably a good idea to listen to the recording, which I will get out by Monday. So everybody have a great evening.